big and good. Kill him.
Dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Sithcast podcast, a Star Wars podcast where we pretty much talk anything and everything Star Wars. I'm one of your hosts, PJ the Paradox Nerd, alongside my two co-hosts, Sean Solo and Nilda, aka the Sith Queen. And
what's up?
Two special guests tonight. We got the returning man, the Scruffy himself, Sean Stone, joining us tonight. And we have the man, the myth, the legend, Tom Spina from Regal Robot. Tom, thank you for...
Thank you very much. I'll settle for man. That's good enough for me. I'm good.
He's back.
That's as nice a compliment as I need. But thank you.
Yeah.
Always good to be here. That and the opening of the show it always has a level of intensity that is surprising.
I don't know. You know what? I was like, you know what? I was going through the list of video, and Sean and know that we gotta like update that intro. It's just that there's like, I'm like, all right, I ran that, and I'm like, and then I picked the most
we'll find
the most awkward one.
Kill him now.
It's just
it's
just and murder. Okay, here, hey, Star Wars fan.
Yeah. Well,
take his head off.
Speaking of murder,
exactly.
Tom,
yes, sir.
You guys over at the Regal Robot team there, you guys are murdering my wallet.
Right.
Let's just put it that way. So
Fair. I know that feeling. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Just when I thought I was out, pull me back. Well, you pull all of us back.
That's easy to do there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to hop on our humble little show here. Thank you for everyone for tuning in tonight's show. I know it's not our usual Wednesday night, but I think today was a special occasion, and we got a nice release. I think we're gonna go like straight into it. So, so
that's it. I'm taking over the show. All right, all the robot stuff from now on. There's going to be a Regal Robot at the beginning murdering people with 2 lightsabers and taking Christopher Lee's head off, and
Yeah.
But it'll be a wallet instead of Christopher Lee's head.
Oh yeah.
Right there you go. Yeah.
Slashing my wallet into.
That's right.
Or his head's like a pinata. When you take it off, money just spews out of his neck.
Right. Or like he opens his wallet and like Minox flutter out the way like moths would in an old timey movie. Like.
Yeah.
So and this is a special release because honestly, like I've never seen so many people get so excited over a creature. And Rancor has a special place in a lot of people's hearts, especially mine. And the last time you released a Rancor in terms of like a statue-ish or Maquette type, it sold out literally in like less than a week.
Yeah,
and we had you on the show.
Fast. I got to look up what the exact one was on that, but that was your fault. So
I was enabling everyone.
That, not me.
Well, you know what though, Tom? It was one of those things where I kind of didn't want to be like the only one to get. Well, not the only one, but one of the few to get the Rancor. But obviously, there was a lot more people that wanted that Rancor.
Clearly, no, and if anything has shown us since then, we just had. Even if once it was sold out, we've just had so many people asking, are you going to re-release it? Are you going to re-release it? And we don't generally do that. Certainly not, direct re-releases. Anything we ever do re-look at something, we want to make sure that we're protecting the integrity of that original edition and all the folks who bought that. So, this was kind of a nice way to approach the character again, but not do another replica of the puppet and instead go back, and here's a perfect picture to show it, the original concept for the character, which was
Mhm.
Phil's sculpture. Here's a
Yeah.
really unique thing about this image. For years, I always assumed that was just a Ralph McQuarrie, painting, like he
Mhm.
did for Star Wars, where he just concepted something and then, maybe Phil sculpted based on it or whatever. It's actually the other way around. Phil came into Jedi after the maquettes were already sculpted. So anytime you see a Return of the Jedi alien in any of Ralph's drawings, they're often based on the maquettes. And if you look at the Rancor in that image in the
Mhm.
painting, it is 100% Phil's maquette and not the final drawing and
Wow.
not some other concept. Ralph clearly like just set that maquette up somewhere and painted off of it or took a photo of it or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's really cool. He took the maquette and put it into the scene and what that could be. And there's a bunch of alternate versions of this that he did in sketch form with different things, different ideas for the cave, different ideas for things like that. But it was really neat when we figured out that Ralph came on later. And there's another great shot of the original maquette in a little mock-up cave with a two-dimensional Luke,
Wow.
like little cardboard cutout in front
That's
of
so
him.
cool.
But yeah, we found some great old pictures like that in the Lucasfilm Image Archives. Nice shot of Phil with the maquette too, and stuff like that. Oh yeah, and then those doodles.
Just the little doodles. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
which is this makes it like a very special release and edition. Um, you know, to be honest, like I know you were probably being like hounded over to make a new like Rancor, and like you said, like this is like a good way of kind of revisiting that creature and having giving it a lot of opportunity for a lot of people that missed out on the original release. And honestly, like that Rancor that you guys did the first time, I mean, that is one of the most prized collectible that is in my collection. It
Oh,
is a
thank you, man.
beauty. I remember, visiting you guys over at the Regal
Yeah.
Robot place and, picking it up, and I was just so excited.
I'm
Uh
surprised they let you in the building. Yeah.
oh yeah,
I
yeah. Well, they're like
That's
Me too.
we have a sign up now, so don't he won't be able to get in the next
no
time. It's fine.
PJ.
It's a retinal scan. You.
There's
Yeah.
like there's a photo of him, with
Mhm,
like like a post office wanted poster. Now, that was a special edition. It's still really heartwarming how well that was received. Um,
mhm,
and I really like that this is another way to do a
mhm,
lineage piece, something that is,
mhm.
traces right back to an artifact in the archives
Yeah.
and still doesn't, intrude on what that other one is. It's a different scale, it's a
Mhm,
different sculpt, but it's
mhm,
still part of the production. And in fact, it was the start of the creature. This was the first incarnation of it.
mhm,
And it ties right back to the making of documentaries. It ties right back to these production photos like this, Ralph's
mhm,
painting, etc. Um, and we're clearly, I mean, anybody who knows us at all, anybody who's ever watched our live streams, Rob and I are obsessed with the making of these movies, and in particular, the
mhm.
making of the creatures for Return of the Jedi and the maquettes that were involved in that.
Yeah.
They're some of the most creative and interesting creature designs ever done, in my opinion. And the the manner in which they were done, the freedom that the artists were given, and the breadth of the creativity that came out of that process is like mind blowing. Every time we go back to the archives, we stare at that set of shelves.
Mhm,
There's this a whole length, probably about 8 feet long by 4 feet deep,
mhm,
maybe even 10 feet long and 4 feet deep. But it's a huge amount of space dedicated to these 80 or 90 little sculptures. And the
mhm.
Rancor always jumps out at you. And it's so
It's yeah.
yeah, I mean, Phil, this is an amazing sculpture at any size. At this scale, it's really impressive. But it was good enough that basically when Phil went to do the puppet, he
Mhm,
just copied it. There's some subtle differences in the face, there's in the way the teeth are aligned and stuff like
mhm.
that. But like overall, it's really, really close to the final. And
Yeah, like
that's just you know, down to Phil's design sense. And he knocked this thing out in a few days. You know, it's like there are people who could sculpt for months and never get
Yeah.
near this. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah, and speaking of maquettes, Nilda was able to just recently get like one of your maquettes. Um, you know, for me, this is a day one pre-order, and I can't wait to have this in my hands. But Nilda, like, what's your thoughts on, like, you got I think you got what's that called?
Nine Nub.
Nine Nub. Nine Nub.
Oh, okay.
I can never say his name, but
Yeah. Nine
Yeah.
Numb. Yeah,
Nine
it's
Numb.
a tongue twister.
Yeah. So obviously, like you got to, hold it, and you're happy with Nine Nub.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna get the Rancor. I'm just debating on which one I want to get.
Oh,
But I'm not gonna have anywhere to display it yet because, as you guys can see, I have no toy room.
oh no.
She's moving.
Yeah.
No, I moved.
Oh, you moved.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so you're in the new
Yeah.
place now. Okay.
I'm in the new place now.
Oh,
Now
we gotta-
it's-
we
now
gotta-
it's
we gotta
time
get
to
some
start,
shelves up.
Yeah, setting
I
up
know.
shelves, all of that. Yeah, so there's our two Rancors together.
Wow.
You can see a little bit of difference in the proportion to the face,
Yeah.
but really, really close all around to the
That's so
overall
cool.
design.
Mhm.
It's impressive how much Phil just nailed it on that first shot and kind of stuck with it.
Now
Yeah,
I got a
Yeah.
I
Go ahead,
got a
sorry.
question. I got a question, Tom. So on the maquette, it almost looks like there's a seam where the shoulder is. Is that was it like that on the?
Yeah, I mean
the
that's
rank?
just so I'm not sure exactly where you're looking. I mean, if you want to
It's-
turn a couple of the other
yeah.
a
It's
couple
kind
of the other angles, we could probably see it. But
Yeah,
there's like a hard line where the shoulder armor ends.
yeah.
That's not a seam on the. It's not even a seam on production. The production seam for the arm is lower.
Okay.
But that is there. That's, I mean, we were basically, we go in to fractions of a millimeter when it comes to scanning these things, like
Right.
0.15 of a millimeter or something like that. And then we go in digitally and punch up all the details and make sure everything is right. We go through, we take hundreds of photos. We look at all angles and make sure that everything is perfect on that scan before we output it.
Yeah, I wasn't implying that you left a seam there. I
No,
didn't know
no,
if
but
it
yeah,
was on the original.
I think
I
I
didn't.
see what you're
Yeah.
talking about, like between the shoulder armor and the head.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
up high. Yeah, that's there. That's that armor plate for each shoulder.
Okay.
And that's that definition of it.
Does the
Okay.
maquette come with drool?
It does not. There is no drool
Okay.
on the maquette. That was
Make your
it
own
is on
drool.
the full
You'll be
size, but
drooling
not
when you
on the
get it.
maquette. Yeah.
Yeah, there
Did
will
you
be a
just
lot
say
of
make
drool.
my own drool?
Yeah, I said you'll be
From
drooling.
what?
When,
From
I said-
what, Sean?
I said you'll be drooling when you get the maquette. See, you'll be like, "Oh, this is amazing."
What is funny is on a lot of the sketches, Phil included the drool, which I think is commendable. I'm very happy he did that.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say too, obviously there's two edition. One is the legacy edition, and one is the, I guess, signature edition.
Mhm.
The legacy edition, which I'm definitely gonna be getting, just it includes a lot of the sketches. So, my question to you is this is original sketches from Phil?
Yes. So yeah, if you go back to the beginning of the gallery here, we can
Mhm.
probably get to something that'll show it, and then we can scroll through a few. So keep going back a little bit.
Okay,
Let's just show like one of the side by sides, just so we get that.
this one or
back
or
one more after that once it loads.
yeah,
Here we go.
this one.
So and yeah, but if you go to the side by side, what you're looking at so yeah, go to whatever the one you were just on.
Oh,
One more over, if you don't mind. So here you go. So this is what you get with the Legacy Edition. This was us trying to figure out,
Mhm.
how do we get beyond just the Signature Edition, and how do we do something, even cooler? And I got to give credit to Rob for coming up with the idea, and then even more credit to Phil for making it cooler than we thought it could be. So with each of these maquettes, you get obviously the maquette, the wood base, and then a framed acid-free mat with a vintage photo of Phil with the maquette and the armature from when he was thinking of doing it stop motion, a
Oh, wow.
signed plaque,
Wow.
a metal plaque that Phil signed with the vintage Return of the Jedi logo, and then a 3-inch by 3-inch, one of a kind, hand drawn sketch by Phil.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's
We
amazing.
basically gave Phil free reign, and what
Mhm.
he did, and here's where maybe you can start going to some of those other images. What he did was he made 100 different sketches. As you
Oh
can
my
see
Wow.
here,
god.
these are some of the examples. You have um, and as you can see right in the middle and the top right, there the drool.
Mhm.
We have the door hitting the Rancor with Luke. We have different face shots of him. We have weird angles. We have some cartoonier ones. We have the breaking of the bone, Luke by his foot, the Gamorrean going into his mouth. There's ones where it's just the hand sticking out of the mouth.
Mhm.
If you go, there's a shot I think of a bunch of sketches kind of on a table. Yeah, here's a few more. Kind of a full Rancor in that one, a different
Mhm.
door shot, I think. There's a silhouetted Rancor on the left. I believe Luke is actually in that one. Yeah, the Gamorrean getting eaten again. Here we go. Yeah, here's a few more. I love. Okay, so
Oh wow.
every time we look at these, we find a different one that's our favorite. But
Mhm.
if you look in the dead center, there's just a pair of Gamorrean legs
Yeah,
sticking
yeah,
out of a Rancor
yeah.
mouth with drool. And then all the way to the left on the bottom
So
left is
awesome.
like this really sly looking one, like he's giving you a side
No,
eye. Yeah,
here, this one, yes.
that's one of my absolute favorites. Phil has you know, he always has this grumpy face on, and
Mhm.
whenever he takes a photo, he could be laughing his ass off, and then like the photo comes in, he's like, he people don't realize how funny Phil is. Phil has a
Yeah.
really great sense of humor, and you see that coming through in some of the pig guard sketches. You see it where the Rancor is looking a little sly here and there.
Mhm.
There's a lot of stuff like that, and yeah, every piece in this edition is going to come with a unique, one of a kind, hand drawn sketch from Phil himself.
That is
Um,
crazy. And
and
it's obviously gonna be random, right? Like people are like,
completely random.
I want
Yes.
that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Has anyone
unfortunately,
even
we cannot accommodate that on this.
Yeah.
you've
That
had
would be a
someone
mess.
ask you, you've had someone ask you already, "Hey, I want the one over here." And you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"No."
Oh, and I know there's more of that coming. Once they go on sale, I'm sure we'll get that. It's on the webpage. It is something we're trying to get across. Yeah, completely random how they're given out. We're sorry, but you're guaranteed to get a true one of a kind, and it's whichever one you get, that's the one you were meant to have.
Mhm.
That's the magic of Phil coming to you.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you're
I was
saying
gonna
there's no APs laying around?
You're gonna see like a whole bunch of people trading.
It's funny. Rob and I were talking
Mhm.
about that. We're like, I bet you're going to have a few people who put theirs up
Mhm.
and like they'll just trade the frames or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
just keep the Rancor and trade the frames around. This is one of my favorite too. If you go back to that last one, I call it the Rancor got someone stepping on his foot.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think he's supposed to be roaring or something like that, but to me it just looks like he stepped on a Lego.
Yeah.
It's
With
so
drool.
fun.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say too is that like obviously these are edition. All right, there's an edition size to the
Just
elected
100 pieces in this one. Yeah.
100 pieces. Now, will there be like a edition size on the plaques and so that
Yes.
like
Yeah. So there's a blank
Mhm.
space right under Phil's name there
Mhm.
that has a number sign on it. That's where the number will go on these. So it'll be handwritten on each one,
Mhm.
1 through 100, and that's it.
Yeah, so and that's the thing too is that like obviously the edition size is also special to the collector,
Yeah.
or edition number. So
Well, yeah.
I mean, like as much as people like, oh, I think just it's gonna be hard to, especially when you have like like a low edition number.
Yeah.
People wouldn't want to like trade it up.
Yeah. It's like, are you going to trade number, 12 for number 87? I don't
Yeah.
know. But if that's the picture you want,
Yeah.
you're going to have people sweetening the deal. It's like, all right, I'll give you number 87 plus $100 for number 12. Who knows? The
Yeah.
good thing is, I think it's been really hard for us to figure out like even what our favorites are on these. Like
Yeah.
Rob and I go through them, and it's like every day our favorite's a different one. So it's like I feel like people are going to get it, and like there's going to be a connection to what they get just because of that, because it's like, okay, this was the one that came to me, this is what I was meant to have. And it's they're all cool, they're all different, so it's just kind of like, okay, this is my unique thing. And again, how many people out there, I mean, there's going to be 100 people in this edition that have a one-of-a-kind Phil Tippett sketch. How
Yeah.
many other people in the world have that? You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
not a lot.
That
I don't think.
yeah. And
And at the end of the day, that's going to be something special, no matter
Oh
what it
yeah.
is. And you know, whether it's refined or
Mhm,
rough or high-minded or goofy, it was
mhm,
all Phil's idea. You know, like every one of these just came out of his brain. We did not tell him what to do. We didn't have pictures of him, what to draw.
mhm.
Every single one of these was just what amused Phil, what he felt like doing creatively. And so that's what you're getting. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, like obviously like I love creatures, Star Wars creatures and all types of different types of aliens and creatures. And the other person that I feel like is around the same type of mindset is Stan Winston, And Stan Winston was he had a amazing mind and how to sculpt these creatures and stuff. And same with Phil. So that's why like just having a sketch hand drawn, literally hand drawn by Phil is
Yeah.
something unique, and that's why for me this was like a day one. Like
Yeah.
it's
Well,
the Rancor, it's Phil, it's a sketch, comes in a nice little like a frame,
yeah.
and it's a glass frame, right? Like this is
Uh,
like
it's plexiglass, so it
glass.
doesn't break in shipping, and then it's an acid-free mount under that.
Yeah.
Oh
And
wow.
with conservation tape and stuff holding everything in on the back, it's
Mhm,
it's the sort of thing where um, I'm with you on that. Like I totally, for me,
mhm.
if I didn't already own the company and get to keep the paint master,
Mhm.
um, uh, I would be. This is something I would buy, and that's the way we decide everything. Somebody asked in our live stream. I don't know if we ever asked it. It's like, how do we decide what's next? Like we decide what's next by going, what do I want to buy? What would I get if I was collecting this line?
Mhm.
And with this particular edition, it was like, how can we make this extra special? How can we do something more than a
Mhm.
signature edition? And the cool thing is,
Mhm.
initially it was going to be a signature edition and a numbered edition, which is how we've done stuff in the past sometimes. And instead, we managed to come up with this, and that meant now, okay, now we can do this legacy edition and a
Mhm.
signature edition. So if people do miss out because there's only 100 and PJ tells me they're going to sell fast, then you
Well,
could still get a Phil Tippett signature edition onto this, which
mhm.
is already, used to be our top of the line kind of thing. So
Yeah.
to me, that's kind of nice that it's like, I don't feel like we've diminished the idea of a signature edition anymore. I think those are still special. And they're still more special than, say, like a numbered edition or something like
Yeah.
that. But this is now the one step beyond, and it gives folks something else to consider. Because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of people who are just going to be like, you know what, I'm happy with the signature edition. I don't need to spend the extra few $100. All my others are signature editions. This will make sense here. And I have no doubt the signature edition is going to sell fine.
Mhm.
Um, but just from today's reactions, I'm really, really, I'm kind of blown away by the reaction to the Legacy Edition. Like I expected there to be, um, I don't know, I don't want to say more ambivalence, but like people that weren't 100% on it, and it felt like everywhere I looked, everybody was saying like, "Oh my God, that's the one I got to get," and I was just like, that kind of surprised me. I thought it would be maybe more 50-50 or something like that, but it seems like the Legacy is something that um, connected with folks, which is really nice. Rob and I have been working on this for months,
Mhm.
and like talking with Phil about it. We were at his house talking about it. It's like we've put all this energy into it,
Mhm.
and not to mention, also then working on the product itself, which is its own huge process and cost and time and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and so we put all this time into it, all this effort into it, but it's, we're in an echo chamber. We're only ever talking to ourselves. And
Mhm.
then uh, to put it out there, it feels a little like that dream that you have where you're up front, like talking to the class and you realize you forgot your clothes at home. Like we like, it's so weird, kind of like just hanging it all out there and going like, okay, let's see if people like this. Like we thought it was good,
Yeah.
And so gratifying that people reacted well to it today. So yeah,
Yeah, well, I think, a lot of people have, they missed out on the first one, right? And I know for a fact, right? And Sean Stone, right? Like Sean Stone and I were talking, and Sean, you missed out on the first one, correct? Like, Sean.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you hear
and
me?
then yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you hear me?
And yes, you can hear you. And I know you mentioned like this is like a must-have, in your collection.
I think he might be delayed.
Yeah, I think he's delayed.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. He might be delayed. Okay.
get him in the chat or something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Sean, if you want to like restart, but I was gonna say is that like I know for a fact like there's a lot of people that missed out, and they're like, we're not missing out on this one, right? And I think that's why like a lot of people are very excited that you are releasing a different type of version of the Rancor.
Yeah,
So,
and it's also a good scale, this one. Like, and look, it's like half the price of the other one. And here's another important fact. I mean, it's less than half the price if you're talking signature edition. And if we were doing the other one again now, 4 or 5 years later after developing that one, it would be the price of Salacious Crumb or the Hollow Chest set. It'd be $4,500, $5,000 for that, the puppet replica, just based on everything that we had to put into it then, and the change in what costs are now 5 years later. Like it's a very different sort of world that we're looking at right now. But and hold on, I'm getting a little bit of an echo now. Let me just reset that.
Hello.
Okay, do you guys still have me?
Yeah, we still have you.
Cool.
Yeah, we still have you.
It really is. It's a good price point, certainly compared to what the other one would be now, and it is at roughly half the scale of the other one. That other one's big. I even have trouble finding a place for it at the studio.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this on your site.
Out from the shelf about 18, 20 inches. It's over 20 inches tall. It's very wide. He's reaching out like that. That big one's tough to find a place for. So having this new one be the Maquette scale gives a lot more people, I think, a chance to grab it and put it on their shelves and not have it be something that is unwieldy.
Yeah. Well, and here's my next question to you, Tom, is that like I know for the original, like for the puppet, you had a hard time. Well, no, I wouldn't say a hard time, like trying to piece everything together because it wasn't really in good in good shape when you first try to, I guess, scan it or just went to the archives and look at it. Was it the same thing too for this Maquette, or like when you went to the archives, like it was like
Actually,
okay.
Yeah, that's a great question. It was actually the polar opposite. The puppet actually is in really good shape considering what it is.
Yes.
It had been restored about 6 or 7 years ago. And it is and even that restoration was relatively minor, but it's in a weird pose. And because of the nature of foam latex, it gets very fragile. And so when you got something stuck in a weird pose, you can't unpose it. Within that is like a stop motion armature or some bendy wire and stuff. And if it was fresh foam, you could just bend it back into position. But as it is, if you put that pressure on it, it would just shatter. So it's stuck in a weird position. So the challenge for us on that one was to take the digital scan and repose it without messing up the details, which is a very unique challenge in digital. And it's something that we've had to deal with the Rancor. It's something we've had to deal with the Hollow Chest set on almost all of the figures for that. And luckily, in both of those processes, we've really figured out how to deal with that. And it's something that, luckily, I have very talented people who work in 3D who can deal with this and do it well. So there was a lot that went into that. And then also even figuring out his paint was challenging because his paint was very darkened over time. And when you go back to the vintage pictures, they all sort of conflict with each other. So we had to really put together a consensus of what that paint was originally and what felt right to a collector getting it.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's resin. It's not resin. It's baked Sculpey, but it's essentially hard plastic
Yeah.
at this point. It didn't darken over time. It didn't get all crunchy or in a different pose. It's in the exact same pose. It's small and relatively easy to photograph. We were able to do an extremely high resolution scan of it. And the colors are really challenging on the maquette, but it's there and it's right in front of you and it's never been repainted and it's never darkened. So, it was just a matter of getting our reference aligned and then reverse engineering. Okay, what did Phil do here? Which is a phrase we say all the time at our shop. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, well, what did Phil do? But no, so we have to go back and now figure out, all right, what do we think is the first color that went on this? And when you have something that has so many layers of paint, like if you zoom in on this picture, you can probably see, even just on his arm, all the blotches of different color paint. And if not this, I'm sure there's a couple of closer shots where it's just a puppet or just the maquette. I mean, that back shot is a pretty good shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you can see there's purples and greens. That's all top level. That's the last thing that went on it. When you get in, like,
I love the purple.
What was that?
I love the purple.
It's so wild.
It's my favorite color, so I love the tint, how it hits it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I didn't even notice that. That's thank you for pointing that out, Tom.
And it's the sort of thing where looking even at the real one and at ours, and it's so cool that it happens with ours. It tells me we did it right. When you look at it in certain lighting or from certain angles, it just looks brown. It looks like the puppet from the movie.
Yeah.
And then if you hit it with a flash or you get different lighting, all of a sudden, boom, there's purples and greens popping out and stuff like that. And it's just so weird.
It's like almost like a I don't know, like a chameleon type.
Phil didn't know why he did it. He just said it must have amused me or something. I think was his term.
I was going to ask you if you talked to Phil for reference for this, and I'm sure he's painted just ridiculous amounts of things that this would be hard to recall, but maybe since it's one of his favorites, he would be like, oh yeah, okay.
It's funny. Phil is really interesting with this stuff. There's a lot of times where he'll have kind of a, oh hell, I don't know, kind of attitude about stuff. That was 40 years ago. And then other times, even if he said that about something, where if the conversation continues on it or circles back to it an hour later, something will spark and he'll be like, oh, you know what? There was one thing, and he'll mention something. Or we did a restoration of Max Rebo, and I remember we were walking to lunch, and I asked him if he remembered what was underneath Max Rebo's skin, and he was like, it's 40 years ago. And then after lunch on the way back, I feel a hand on my shoulders walking back to his studio, and he's just like, so it started out, it was Scott foam, and I carved with scissors, and then over that I put some slip latex skins and the foam latex hands, and like he had all of it.
Well, he wanted to see if you were going to pay for lunch first.
I guess that's it.
He's like, okay, he paid. Tom paid. All right,
Tom paid. I'll
give
him a little
he paid
insight
for lunch. Now that I'm remembering, but yeah, no, totally. And it's sometimes it's just got to click, and so yeah, we've gotten tons of great information out of Phil, and then we've had lots of other times where he's like, no, I don't know, But yeah, if you zoom in on any of those close-ups of this, you'll see, like, that's a good one. Zoom way in on this. You can start to see all that brown blotching, and cream color, and orange tones. It's almost like pointillism. Like if you look at the side of his head, it's all these blotches and dots.
Wow.
There's red under his eyes and around his mouth and in his jowls. The eyes are painted and glossed. You've got just all these layers of brown. It took us about 3 weeks to get the paint master right. It took us 2 weeks to do it the first time, and then Rob and I went back to the archives and compared what we had to the original, and came back and did another week of work to really dial it in. And the area where we varied originally was that our paint was a little too good.
Oh.
Our first draft was
Yeah.
too smooth. It didn't have enough blotchiness to it. Didn't have enough air in between the dots.
Yeah.
And so,
Imperfections and
we
stuff,
were
yeah.
being a little more washy and getting things in the grooves, where his was a little more on the surface and a little more pointillism. And as soon as we figured that out, it was like, oh, okay, there it is. And within a couple of days, we really had, not just, I think by the end of that third week, we had 6 or 7 good examples. And that to me is the mark of when we've got it. Pardon me. It's, it's one thing to have one good paint master, but it's another to have a paint master and then duplicate it 5 or 6 times so that we know that our process is there and works.
Wow.
Because you're talking about 20 or 25 paint steps on a piece like this, that are overall layers over the whole thing. So you've got to make sure every one of those interacts right with the one before it and the ones after it. And it's a challenge, man. It was Matthew at the shop and Melissa at the shop both worked really hard on this. I came in and did a bunch of paint with Matthew on our first final master that got us the rest of the way. And then Matthew, Melissa, and Max did those first 6 or 7 to kind of do proof of concept on it. And that's when we knew we had it. I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, who's with me?
I know, right?
Sean. Oh, there you go. There he is. Sean, welcome back. So, yeah, what's your thoughts, Sean? I know you were looking at this. I know you said you missed out on the first one, and this is something that is a must-have in your collection, man.
Yes. Can you guys hear me,
Sean?
Yeah,
we can hear you.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I don't know if it's faint or not or whatnot, or if it's delayed. I'm having internet issues. Yes, I did miss out on the first one. It sucks because I waited 3 days, and then when I thought about it, it was already sold out. So I love this thing. It's gorgeous. I'm probably gonna also get the Legacy myself because having a Phil Tippick, drawing is just gonna be like unreal.
Yeah.
So I'm all on board, man. This thing is it's probably gonna be one of the best ones by far.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So I guess 3 days, Tom.
Yeah, it was I had a recollection of like 48 hours before when we were talking about it that came in my mind.
I say 72 hours to sell.
You know what?
Oh, well, yeah, she's talking about this one. Okay.
The payment plan's not bad. I'm actually just looking at it now.
Oh, here we go.
Well, for one, I'm gonna be honest with you, Tom. The wife told me no. But it's like, but listen, I know how to work this.
We have a special. There's a payment plan, and then there's another payment plan where we don't tell your wife. So you pay extra.
Does it come with a certificate that says you won this in a raffle?
That's right. We call that the Ken Bishara certificate.
The payment plan is not bad at all.
Sean, what do you think, man?
Dude,
first of all,
yeah.
And that was. So
I want it. I'm not lying.
So I mean, we normally do a 6-month payment plan for the maquettes, and what I did for this was we said, you know what, let's give this the 12-month plan, which is not ideal for us as a studio. We don't have a lot of room, so we can't be sitting on a ton of product, but it can also help us to stagger our build a little bit since this can take a long time, and there's only a handful of people that work on these things. So if it helps people, and we knew the price point was, on a different level than the other maquettes. The important thing to know, though, is this is not like the level for maquettes. This is the level for this particularly complicated and expensive to produce maquette. And our next maquette, which will be coming out in January, will be along the lines of the $299 price point that Droopy McCool just went out at. And by the way, Rob will get mad at me if I don't say this. Droopy McCool is now 75% sold out.
Oh, wow.
So it's an edition of 200 pieces, and 75% of those are gone. If you are thinking of grabbing a Droopy McCool, now's a really good time to do it. And with a 6-month plan, $299 is like $50 a month. It's not bad.
Yeah, sacrifice a little
Yeah.
of that coffee that you get in the morning.
Exactly. The price of a cup of coffee could bring you home a Droopy McCoy.
I really
Well-
want this legacy edition. I just
You gotta
purchased
join
the sideshow Rancor. I got a good deal on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, some guy was selling it on Macari, and I was finagling him. That's why I've been on my phone, and he agreed with the price that I offered him. So I think this with the sideshow will go well.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the beginning of the character, and then the inspired by that came later from Sideshow.
Yeah, and
Sideshow's not life size. They're like 30-inch whatever tall, and then they had like another kind of in between that was closer to the puppet scale.
Yeah,
it's neat. It's their own take on it, and it is much more of a statue. Like our stuff isn't statues; they're history. They're artifacts.
They're Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
they're Star Wars history.
yeah.
And it's like okay, it's Phil Tippett
Yeah.
history versus like a modern age sculptor's take on the Rancor, which both are fine. Whichever
still
fits in
cool.
your- Still cool.
And it's a
whatever
very
fits your
different kind of
budget.
paint on theirs. That's a very mass-produced paint job, and it's a beautiful paint job for what it is. And I'm amazed at the prices they can get out of China or wherever they're making this stuff. But it's not the same as hand painting it the way Phil did, and all the effort and everything that we put in behind the scenes and everything to get people something that just feels authentic and feels like the real deal. I honestly, with all of these maquettes, if you just were to switch out the bases for crappy chunks of wood, they'd look right at home on those shelves at the archives. That's about the only thing we do to plus them up is fancy up the base a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was gonna say too, like and I mentioned in like my videos before, is that it's made in the U.S., right? It's what more can you ask for in terms of a quality control like manager when you have Tom Spina looking at all these things and say, okay, that's good, like send them out, like
and
as opposed
I'm
to
gonna
someone else
I'm gonna go one
overseas.
step further. Sorry, I'm taking over the show now, PJ.
No, take over.
I'm
Hey,
gonna
this
go one
is
step
about you.
further because
yeah.
more critical than I are even so Rob and Max at the studio.
Yeah.
Max, our studio supervisor. The two of them are even more critical than I am. By the time something has gotten through the two of them, I'm definitely okay with it. But yeah, and the other thing is, Max and myself especially are always in the back, always watching over people while they're doing this stuff, always coming through and looking and giving guidance along the way, so that like even we were just doing another round of paint on Nine Numbs today, and as they were doing them, I would just check back and go, okay, yeah, you know what? On this phase, I know the paint master looks this way, but wash that down a little more. It's a little too strong. That kind of note,
Yeah.
we're picking up that stuff even through the process. So it's not just like, hey, it gets here at the end and it either gets yay or nay. We've watched it through the process so that, at the end they're great. And then everybody's happy.
Yeah, and the thing too is the same type of love you get from for me, like the edition size or edition number doesn't really matter because you give the same amount of love for each piece. And it's one of those where where a mass-produced statue, it's like, oh man, there's some blots of paint here, there's and that, oh my gosh, it looks off, the eyes are a little wonky, how do I get in? And they'll send you a replacement. No, this is like legit, like you spent a good amount of time with each and every piece and making sure that the collectors are happy.
And the time that goes into painting each one of these is not inconsiderable. Like it is a it is a fair amount of time that goes into even the smaller maquettes, even things that you might think are, oh, what does that take someone 10 minutes? It's like if you think it's 10 minutes, it's probably 2 hours. If you think it's 2 hours, it's probably a day. Obviously everybody has budgets and things we're trying to stick to, but the end of the day for us is the quality of the piece and what goes out the door. And whether it's the first one or the 83rd one or the 100th one or the 150th one, we want them all to look consistent. We want them all to match the paint master. And if they don't, then we punch them up as they go. There's always a little variation. They're hand painted. All the dots aren't going to be in the exact same spot, but they're all going to feel exactly like that type of paint that Phil did. They're all going to have the same level of overall contrast and darkness and lightness and the color palette and everything like that. And all the purple blotches will be in about the same area on each one, but it's hand done. There's going to be a little variation, but it's because of that, it's going to feel loose and it's going to feel natural and it's not going to look stenciled or fake or factory.
Yeah. And in terms of like the price, it's 1,700. And listen, for me, when I first bought the Rancor, it was like around like $3,000, right?
Right.
And I know at the time, there was, can't deny it. There were some people that were like, oh, this is overpriced, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
whatever. But then it sells out, and then
2 days later, yeah,
people are like, oh man, like and honestly, and I always say this too. It's like, these are collectibles, and they if it means that's much to you, pick it up. Everyone collects differently. No one collects the same. It's okay if you buy a $3,000 piece or 1,700.
Absolutely.
If it speaks to you,
if it touches you, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
If it speaks to you, then that's yours. Because honestly, though, like anybody outside of the collecting world will look at you like, what? Even if you spend $20 on a Black Series figure or whatever or a Funko
whatever
Pop,
it is you're getting,
whatever it is, someone's gonna say you're crazy for spending.
Right? Yeah.
So who cares? We're all
Wait
crazy.
till they see what some of my friends spend on screen used props.
Well,
my God, all of that for a sweaty shirt that's got stains in the armpits that smells like Ian McKellen. It's like, what?
Yeah, or like the vintage stuff. Where people spend. Wait, you want the rocket firing Boba?
Oh my gosh!
Like what? How much is it?
Not even rocket firing Boba anymore. Like some of the I've been trying to fill in some holes in my collection for like some of the mini rigs, and it's like those later series mini rigs that came on the cards where it was just like the smaller thing. The price on those are crazy right now, but crazy to me who spends my money elsewhere, and maybe so I won't spend it on that. But there's plenty of prop stuff that I've brought in that would make this stuff look like nothing. And that last comment is perfect, because here's the really funny thing. The first time we priced out doing the Maquette version of the Rancor was almost immediately after we did the Rancor. Excuse me. And we were looking at maybe doing a scaled version of it, not necessarily the Maquette. And because of the development at the time and all everything else that went with it, and then the cost of making them, our price came up not very different from doing the full size Rancor. And we were like, well, we can't release that now. Like it would be, but because it literally, like every 20-inch Rancor versus a 10-inch Rancor, you still have to paint 2 eyes and this many teeth and this many claws and this many toes and all the washes. And this small one actually has more paint on it than the big one, more paint layers, that's for sure.
And it's almost probably harder to paint the small one because it's the finer details.
It is more delicate
in there, right?
Yeah. Well, the big one is
time.
painted a little more organically, so it's more washes and more like letting things settle in and letting the prop keep what it wants. Yeah. Whereas this, you've got to be a little more deliberate and a little more on the surface. It's unusual the way it was painted. It's even unusual compared to other fill pieces. But it really has a particular read that you get from it, and especially in person. I always do this thing in the shop where it's like we're working on something like that. They make fun of me, but I'll step away from the table. I'll be about 6 feet away, and I'll like turn away and like specifically not look at it for like a few seconds, and then just turn back and try and get like a fresh read. Like, what's my immediate reaction to this? Because I have it burned in my mind from all our trips to the archives. And in this case, having just seen the original, literally days before coming back to work on this paint. So it was like, I just kind of like, okay, put a white background behind it. Let me just, fresh take on this a few times. And it was stuff like that was like, okay, we're too pale overall, or we're a little too warm. Let's, do a green wash over this to knock that warmth back. And, so stuff like that was happening, or like, I'm not seeing enough of the blotching, so we got to go heavier with the spots. That came out of that kind of process, which is, it looks silly. It's like literally like peekaboo, you know, with the props. But like, you need to do that. You need to put fresh eyes on it, and you need to have like what's your gut read? Is it too dark? Is it the right tone? Does it feel right? And when you get it to the point where you turn and it's like, ooh, that just hit me right. Like that feels like when I look at the real thing, that's really cool. Like my droopy, when I picked that up, it's just kind of like, you kind of go like, hey, you know, if you just cleaned off the real one a little bit and took 40 years of dust off of it, that would look just like this.
Yeah. Actually, Joel Haas asked a really good question. He said, do you ever take your finished products back to the archives to compare?
We haven't. If after it's been released, we haven't. Honestly, just because that would be a lot of shipping back and forth and stuff like that. But there have been times where we've brought stuff to the archives to compare. There certainly a lot of times where we have color comps and things like that we'll bring through. Stuff like a perfect example is the fabric on the Tusken Raiders. We did dozens and dozens of dye lots of different tones for that fabric. It was a custom run fabric we had done overseas for us to get the weave right. So yeah, the Tusken Raider, I think, is on the next the next page, but
this one.
So yeah, what's interesting is, so our prototype is in the photos, and the color on those wraps is pretty good, but the originals have a little more of a gold tone to them. This has some warmth from the photos, but the actual wraps were a little dull to my taste. And we went back after this. This was just that first prototype. After that, we went through and we did all of these different dye lots, and we brought them to the archives. And when we found the one that matched, that's what we did for the rest of the run. And so we've actually since gone back and rewrapped the prototype with the other fabric. It's a subtle difference. I would bet most people other than me probably wouldn't even notice the color difference. But it makes such a big deal to me. And it's definitely one of those reads, because when we were at the archives the last time, which was October, I got to see those two Tusken Raiders that they have there again. We were working in an area near them, and every time I caught them out of my eye, they just look like the Tusken Raiders on the shelf in our studio right now, because we have a batch of them on the shelves. And it's so weird to have that feeling like, ooh, okay, we did that right, because I just thought they were ours, you know, except that those have like a little more fading in the leather and stuff like that. That could be one of ours.
Wow.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you know, a lot of people are probably like, well, you know, I don't know if I want that, but you know, like in terms of like the legacy edition, but there is obviously another edition, which is the Phil Tippett signature edition, and this one just comes with obviously the maquette, but also with the plaque.
Yeah.
And this is an edition size of 150.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. All hands signed by Phil. He thankfully has not gotten tired of signing things for us. But this was our top of the line edition, was always the signature edition. So, you know, it's definitely, if you can't get the legacy edition because it sells out, or if, you know, you don't want to pay the difference in price, that the sketch isn't your thing, or that plaque is going to take up too much room, that's fine. That's why this exists. And it's, you know, $400 cheaper, and it gives people another crack at this.
Yeah. Well,
Tom, I have a question for you. Are you guys going to be at San Francisco Comic-Con?
We are not.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. The next convention we'll probably do, it'll be whatever the next stateside Star Wars celebration is, probably.
You guys should come to MegaCon.
Yeah. There's a lot of conventions we'd love to come to, but those shows they're a beast. They're so expensive to do as a crew and as a company, that it's tough for us. And it's also it's tough to pull us away from the studio for that kind of time too. Just, you know, because a show like that, me and Rob are going to want to be there, and then we've got to bring a few other people to help run the booth. We've got to freight things back and forth. It adds up surprisingly quick when it comes to those shows. But Star Wars Celebration is always a winner for us. It's always a really, really strong show for connecting with people. And everyone who's at Star Wars Celebration is there for Star Wars.
Yeah.
We go to all of these other conventions, and we've done like Comic-Con, and we've done some FanX and a few others, and they're fun and they're great, and they're exhausting and expensive, but unfortunately there's a number of people that go to the convention that just aren't even into Star Wars. So you get a percentage of people that just walk by you that at a Star Wars convention, we usually manage to pull a lot of people in. Our booth is pretty unique, and the stuff we're doing is different, so we get a lot of eyes, and so that'll be the next one we end up at.
Yeah, no. Hopefully, it comes to stateside soon, because
Yeah,
it's a good opportunity for, like, all the collectors, not only on the stream, watching us and listening to us, but also like the people here in the panel to get a chance to meet up. I hung out with Sean Stone a lot at Celebration. We got to hang out in your booth. We chilled with Gabe,
yeah.
Lee, and a whole bunch of Eben. They're all here watching us, and it's such a cool vibe. And sometimes we make an excuse just to hang out, and we're not doing anything but just hanging out in front of the Regal Robot booth and just chilling and talking to Tom. And Tom's like, "Shoot, get out of here! Come on."
Hey, you're blocking the paying customers. What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Star Wars Celebration Japan. Like, I know there's going to be a whole bunch of people that I'm in a separate, like Facebook group chat with Star Wars, and there's going to be like a whole bunch of people going to that one. So that's going to be interesting, and like international waters.
Yeah. And those shows are always so good for just connecting with folks that you literally would never be in the same place with otherwise, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whether even and I know when I'm at those shows, when I'm tied to the booth, I'm like bananas, and I don't really get to sit down and enjoy it. But after the night's over and the show's closed, there's always that hanging out back at the hotel bar, and there's always people that I never get to see other than at Star Wars Celebration. And it's always really, really cool to just sit down and decompress and chill out and just nerd out with.
And also, like, obviously you have your own panel too at Celebration, which I think a certain someone was hanging out and asked you if you were going to make a Jar Jar Binks at some point. But, hopefully that person's wishes come true.
Yeah. Who would ask such a thing?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, this is the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace next year, isn't it?
Oh,
no, next year would
yeah,
then it would be also the 20-year anniversary of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and the Clone Wars, the Jendi Tartakovsky version.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, and for the people watching and listening to, this is the Legacy Edition is definitely going to be a very hot item. So if you guys are interested in purchasing this, November 14th at 12 noon, be on your computer.
12:05. I'll be on at 12, and everyone else can get on at 12. I need to get ahead.
You'll be on at 11:55.
Yeah, I got to get
refresh.
John, you're gonna make people angry at us. Like, Sean from Sitcast told me 12:05. What the heck?
I just told Sean, Tom, I'm looking at the Regal website, and I see the Gamorrean guard, like the Maquette is. I guess like the price went down a little bit. And I told Sean, I'm like, thinking about getting this. And he's like, it's a good comparison it would be a good piece next to the Rancor.
It would. Yeah. And that's actually what that price has always been on that piece.
Oh, it's always been that?
Yeah, the collectibles range that's not something, that we ever really mark down. Those are something that, we do 2 sales a year. We do them on Black Friday and on May the 4th. We generally don't do any other sales, but that's only ever on our collectible stuff. That's only ever on our decor stuff. The collectible stuff, those are the prices. We don't mess with those. This isn't a clearinghouse. These are small editions, and when they're gone, they're gone. So, we don't feel the need to help that along or rush it. I actually do like having product on our site to sell people. It is nice when things sell out fast, but it's also nice that people can come to our site and buy things too. So I want to make sure there's always stuff on there for folks to bring home.
Yeah. And I'm telling you guys, like, just like the first time around, like this
BJ's
will sell.
Prediction.
That's what I told Tom. If anything, here's my prediction.
Yeah.
One day,
So you're saying one day? Are you saying 24 hours or within
I'm
the
saying
same?
I'm saying 24 hours.
So you're saying 24 hours
It's
on the Legacy Edition?
Oh, that's
Yes.
gone. That's
Okay.
gone very quickly.
Yes. You know, and that's the thing too. This is like a very beautiful piece. The unique part, like you said, is the sketches.
It's
Phil
very
Tippett's-
unique. Yeah.
I don't know when I will ever get Phil Tippett to make a sketch for me, you know, like unless I like, you know, stalk him like, Phil, give me a sketch right now. No, like this is the best opportunity to get it, you know. And just really quick before we move on, and we ask, more, Regal Robot questions and future releases and new releases. I just want to just address the chat real quick. Thank you guys for tuning in on a Tuesday night evening. We got Jeff's in the house, Star Wars Addict 77. We got Flex in the house. What's up, Flex? The Rogue 5 Cantina is on watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got Far From Death Star. Rancor time. It is Rancor time. Rancor time. The Collector #1. And Stephen Bly, man, every single time we're just chump change. He always goes straight for Nilda. Thank you.
She's
Steven.
the best looking one. He's got to go for,
Yeah. Every single stream, like, oh, we're okay. There's 2 other.
Hey, I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Tom's on, but
that's right. Yeah. Wait, I'm insulted now. Hold on.
Yeah, we're always insulted. It's like we don't exist.
Stone got insulted. He just left. He was like,
yeah,
I know.
He's like, that's it. I'm not the pretty one, and Stone's out.
Yeah, he's like,
he's got some internet issues. We got Row 5 Cantina, like I mentioned before. We got Dewback deliveries. I have print and stuff. That being said, we need an archive Dewback Maquette, and that's the one.
So.
Tom, that's another thing. If you want my money,
I'm a sucker for Dewback. So we did the sofa. Yeah, you always talk about it. We do have a scan of the original prop head from the Dewback from A New Hope, the original practical one that was brought to Tunisia. We actually just did at the studio just for fun. I have it in our lobby right now. I did a 22-inch long thing of the head. It's like that big, just to hang on the wall for fun.
Don't tease me, Tom. Don't tease me.
So there was no maquette for A New Hope for the Dewback. That said, for the special edition where it's the more lizard-like Dewback with the fatter head, there is a maquette. It's an all clay piece. It's not finished or painted. It's a beautiful rough sculpt though. I forget the sculptor's name right now. I believe it's a fellow who just passed. But that's one thing that does exist that we have looked at. I think it's when we're doing these archive collection maquettes, they are replicas of production artifacts. So we're not just going in and doing mini statues of some character that exists. We are doing a replica of a concept sculpture for a character that already exists that we are now duplicating as an artifact. That said, as a collectible, we could do some sort of scaled Dewback statue. Possibly we could probably do some kind of, head thing as a decor piece. Yeah, there you go. There's a perfect example. That's, there's one of those in the archive. That was Phil's concept and we have replicated it. And there's its butt.
Well, like the non-existing butt crack.
He's got a little crack there, but he's only got legs and those aren't ears, they're flippers according to Phil, which just blows my mind every time. This is great. Do you want to be a model for all of our shoots? I gotta get Sean to the studio.
I wanted to take out my 9 num so badly out of my boxes, but I was like, where is it?
You've got the Just Moving Blues. I get it.
Yeah, I love it. The details of like the neck are phenomenal.
Thanks.
Yeah.
He's another one. There's a surprising amount of paint on. That was Dave Carson's paint, and there's so many layers and little weird splotches and spots and things.
And there was like a lot of like blush tones.
Yes.
So I love that because, like I love makeup. I don't use that much of it, but you can see like the amount of blush tones that were put, especially like in the neck area. The cheeks were very rosy. So that was like my favorite. And I love the
this
fact that
almost
like the
purpley kind of coming
yes,
through. Yeah.
I love the fact that like when I got it, the voice act or the person who portrayed Nine Numb in the films, he was just like, "Oh, this is great." He's like, "I can't wait to receive mine."
Oh, nice.
Is that Mike
Yeah,
Quinn?
yeah, Mike
Yes.
Quinn.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Yeah,
He
wound
was
up
like, "I
buying one.
can't wait to get mine." He's like, "This looks so cool."
Such
I
a nice
love
guy.
when those folks come, like the guy who played Yak Face was came to us to get one of the Yak Face editions when that came out too, and it's just like that's awesome. Like that
Yeah.
they want
Sean
to bring us in.
Crawford.
This
He
is
was
the spark of their
He,
character, you know.
he was on
show.
our show too. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Sean Crawford.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super
yes.
nice. Super nice guy.
guy.
Yeah, and Simon Williamson too. They're both amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Simon was the one who was telling us about that what we thought were feet were not.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah. Everybody thinks they're his arms, but they're his legs.
they're his
and
legs.
that's
Oh
it.
yeah, they're his legs.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We thought it was his arms. It's his
Everybody
legs.
assumes he's sitting in that thing. He's supposed to be on it. I always thought it'd be really cool now that we have, better digital tech for comping. Like when they had him in Book of Boba, how cool would it have been to have that costume, but have the actor wearing a green screen leotard underneath so that they could hop up and down every once in a while and you could see the air underneath him and really sell the illusion of like, this is all of him. You're seeing everything.
Yeah.
Like they've still never gotten that. And it's amazing to me because it's like the illusion almost worked better in Return of the Jedi than it does now that you know it. But it's like, we're so hardwired to that's a person in a suit that it would just be great to add that, like even just 2 hops would sell it and it'd be like, oh, wow. Like that would have been amazing. But
yeah,
that's why I'm not in charge.
Well, no, hopefully we get to see, we told Simon this, like hopefully, they bring his character back. I know there's a comic book based off Max Rebo. So you're we got Darth Kenobi Santino in the house. What's up, Santino? Pats fan for life. That looks awesome. Pats fan, I feel you. I'm a Giants fan, so we're in the same boat in terms of our fan, like our teams losing this year. Far from Death Star. The biggest question: will Phil Tippett get tired of signing all these soon, or should he invest in a stamp?
We haven't done quite that many of them yet, so luckily he is not tired of it.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it ever got down to a stamp, we wouldn't be doing it. The whole point of this is that hands-on connection to the guys who made it. But yeah, that is pretty funny. At some point, he might be thinking that he's just like, no,
I'm sure he loves doing, being involved in some of these projects or all these projects.
We're really lucky that he does. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Next,
the first sister. Thank you for tuning in. We got Spice Runners Lounge. Eben.
What's up, Eben?
Who else is here? We got Diamond Figs. What's up, Will? Watched him on Star Wars Theory the other night. Did a great job over there. We got Joel Hazy in the house.
Joel.
Who else is here? Far from Death Star. I missed out on the first version. Biggest collector regret ever. Not
Me
missing
too.
out.
Yeah.
See, I'm telling you.
Agreed.
There is. Yeah. I'm telling you. 24 hours. Jedi Chisel.
We had people today that are predicting faster than that, PJ.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know what to make of it. If next Tuesday comes,
it's gonna be quick,
and the Legacy Edition sells out in like 20 minutes, I wouldn't be surprised. But also, if it took 2 days, I wouldn't be surprised. No. I think if it goes a week, I probably would be surprised at this point. The way that the reaction has been today to the reveal and the number of people that, immediately were like, oh, I got to get the Legacy one, just right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Says to me, it'll probably be fast. I think probably a day or two. I would be shocked if it goes more than that, really. But I genuinely don't know anymore. But like I said, if it went in 15 or 20 minutes, I wouldn't be surprised either.
It'll go quick.
The first 30 seconds to a minute always tells us how an edition is going to do.
Right.
That's where the vast majority of the orders come in every time. And it's, it'll be like, if we were talking an edition of 100 pieces and it was a sellout in 2 days, out of that 100, 75 of them probably went in the first 30 seconds. And then the rest went over the period of those 2 days.
Right.
And even out of those 25, probably most of those were in the first hour. It really is concentrated in those first few minutes and first hours that the real big hits come in. That said, sometimes we have things where like somebody does a review and that sparks an influx, or someone big shares it or something like that, or the Star Wars site does a thing on it, and that brings in another influx. But usually, oh puppy, usually it's it really, like, we know within the first 5 minutes, Rob and I can look at each other and go like, oh okay, this barely has a day left, like,
right.
or it might be like, oh, we better be on top of the site, we got to mark this low stock already, because we just blasted through. So it's going to be wild and interesting and exciting. Next Tuesday, the 14th, 12 noon Eastern, when they go up for sale. I'm very curious what it's going to be like. Today was kind of a crazy day. Even just sharing the details of it was pretty woolly. So next week's probably going to be even crazier.
Oh, it's going to be nuts. So, Tom, I know you've got the 12-month payment plan. Do you guys have a guesstimated release date?
Yeah, so that's on the product page for each. Right now, we're saying the first waves will start going out in Q1 2024. It'll be the last bullet, PJ.
I'm sorry. Oh, sure.
All
right here. Here you go.
There you go. So I can't see it because of the people.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do it this way. Sorry.
There we go. So yeah, the way that we do these are in very small batches. Like I said, there's a handful of people, like literally a handful, like 4 or 5 people working on them at any given time. We already have, I want to say, about 16 or 20 of them going in the shop. But we have things like the wood bases on order, that's something that's made out of house, and that takes some time to get done. We have the boxes being custom made. That takes some time. We have the foam inserts being made. That takes some time. So stuff like that isn't really going to start coming into us until January. And so I would assume that if we're still producing them over the next 2 months, that by January or February, we should start shipping some of these. And you'll probably get a couple of good waves to go out in January and February. And then after that, they'll be going out, 10 or 12 a month for a while. Until we run through them later in the year.
Okay.
So I should tell my mom and my parents and my family members, just give me money so I could pay this thing off.
We need Regal bucks for them to buy you for Christmas.
Oh, yes. Yes. There you go.
We're working on it. Yeah. And that really, that like small waves thing is how we do everything. We get a few times, we get people that get confused because they're used to maybe Hot Toys or Sideshow or Gentle Giant, maybe, where they have a collectible that comes out and they say, this will be shipping in Q2 of 2020. And they get 10,000 of them in from a factory. And in, the course of a week, they have a giant factory filled with people that ship these things out right away. Whereas even with ours, if you have a dozen of those Rancors, that's going to take even just the people up front a few days to hand box them, to put all the COAs in, to put the plaques together, to put the photos in, all of this stuff, and then process the labels, put them in the shipping boxes, pad everything up, get them picked up. It's, it's the sort of thing where there's a lot of work that goes into every one of these that I think people don't even think about. And that's all done by, the front end staff of us is only a few people. So, that's why we try and stagger these things, and that's why they go out in these smaller waves. But they've been, and I gotta say, the crew has been working so hard lately, both on the production side. So they got through 200 Rupee McCools, painting those up. They're through almost all of the 9 nums right now, and they got through all of the Gaffy sticks. For the A New Hope run, there's still a few people that are waiting to get them because they're on payment plans, but the sticks are all done. They finished a small run of the Chewbacca busts, like the one behind Sean there. I still want you to fluff his hair up Monday, but I'm gonna always bug you. Oh, there we go. Yeah, nice. Could he be further away, please? There's a
Well, my whole
hairy
house
beast in
is
Sean's lair
Star
and
Wars.
Chewbacca.
I know.
But so there's
What is this, Han
actually
Solo?
we have
Chewbacca looks
one.
like it got a perm.
I think we have one Chewbacca in stock right now. One of those busts. It's the one with the roaring mouth, because they just finished a run of like 10 of them, and 8 were claimed. Someone just bought one of them today. So we now have one left, and it's the open mouth. So if anybody wants one and they want to get it before Christmas, it's a good time to buy one.
PJ. PJ.
But
I would, but
oh my
I want
gosh,
the
they're
closed
through. I
mouth.
want to say they're over 400 on the Grail Cups already, which is freaking amazing. They have been rocking those things, and they all look spot on. They have been so consistent. I'm so excited. But even those, it's like, I don't know if anybody's gotten one.
I've
but,
got
you
one.
know, they get wrapped up in this kind of
it's
aged
a
fabric. They
great
get dyed,
packaging.
they get stuff. I mean, even packing those takes time. And when you're talking hundreds of these things and maybe 2 or 3 people working on it, it adds up.
You get a 10 for packing that thing.
Oh, thank you.
It was awesome. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
That came about very last minute, and it was one of those rare pieces where it wasn't as fragile. Mm-hmm. And so we didn't need to do a styrofoam insert, and we try to avoid non-reusable packaging wherever we can anyway. Mm-hmm. And just from an environmental standpoint, styrofoam is necessary on a lot of these, but wherever possible, we try to avoid it. And so for that Grail Cup, which, Peach, if you're, I guess you got to go to the shop to find Indiana Jones. But and I would say, I know they're going through the wait list for this right now. There are a handful available. So if anybody is thinking about getting one of these and missed out, hit them up now, because now that they're hitting the end of the run on production, that's when we go through the wait list and we find out, how many people dropped off on a payment plan, or if something wasn't accounted for correctly. Now is when we're going to know it. So if you are interested in getting the Cup of the Carpenter, as it were, you can choose wisely and hit that waitlist button now, and maybe Katie can take care of you and get you one.
Awesome. Well, I was going to say too, I just want to touch, talk about the Rancor really quick before we move on.
Yeah.
I do just want to mention to everyone, please mark it in your calendar. November 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern time.
Correct.
These are going to go up. If you're going for the Legacy Edition, go straight for it, because it's going to sell out. Obviously, don't beat yourself up if you miss out on the Legacy Edition, because you still have the signature. Yeah. But obviously, try to shoot for the stars with this one and go for the, the Legacy Edition. And shout out to Phil Tippett, one of the best. And to own a piece of, something that he created, not only with the maquette, but the drawing as well, is in itself
it's
special.
Fun, man. I really appreciate that, man. I'm glad that folks are responding well to this. This is something cool for us, and it's nice. It's just nice that people get it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, moving on, I know Thanksgiving is one of my favorite times of the year. Usually, turkey, family, yada, yada, yada. But also, Regal Robot usually has something special around the holidays.
Yeah.
Not only with the sales that you mentioned earlier, with some of the decor.
Yeah.
Right. But you do usually release a couple things here and there around the holiday season. Anything you can hint? Could it be like more? Well, you said the next maquette will be next year.
Correct. The next maquette will be early to mid-January right now.
Yeah.
And that'll be in the Droopy McCool price range, that $299 price range.
Okay.
We're only a few weeks away from, we're what, 3 weeks away from Black Friday. So
Black Friday, yes.
Yeah, for Thanksgiving. We will. There's no new Star Wars pieces coming for that. However, we do have 3 new decor pieces for Indiana Jones. They are not particularly expensive. They make great gifts. They aren't too costly to ship, and they go with some of the other stuff we've already released. And that's probably as far as I can go with it right now, because I don't think we've got. I don't know where we are on our approvals for the ad marketing on that yet, but we can We will be announcing more in the next couple of weeks on that. Probably, we're going to let the Rancor breathe a little bit, and then we'll probably move into what Black Friday is going to be, what's coming, what the sales are going to be, etc. What I'll say is this: if you've ever looked at any of the Indiana Jones decor items, all of these ones here, or if you've ever looked at our Star Wars decor pieces, and thought about picking them up, but held off for whatever reason, take a fresh look on Black Friday. We're on Thanksgiving. Usually our sales start around Thanksgiving and go through Cyber Monday. But take a fresh look. It's all going to be a while supplies last kind of thing. What we basically do is, we pick the items that we're going to put on sale and we limit it to whatever stock we have on hand at the time, because we want anything people are buying for Black Friday to arrive before Christmas. So when those sales start, don't wait too long because things do run out. But give it a fresh look. Maybe there's something that you never really committed to picking up, but now you can grab it for 15-20% off or something like that. And or maybe there's something you look at and go like, oh, you know what? I know someone who would love this in their stocking.
Nice. Mom, if you're watching or listening,
maybe someone needs a Rancor skull in their stocking. You never know.
I do.
Mom, I hope you're listening.
Right. He wants a Red Ryder BB rifle and a Rancor skull.
There you go.
Mom, if you're listening and watching, this is still in my radar. The gaffy stick, please. Well, I was gonna say too is that okay? So mostly Indiana Jones are going to be released. I know you kind of like usually give us a hint on some of the things that you're working on. Is there going to be next year obviously more maquettes?
Yeah.
Would there be more prop replicas? Would you do some? Is there a date that we could look forward to where you could make more announcements of things that are going to make us broke?
Once we're through the Rancor, we're going to try and put up an estimated release schedule for the next few pieces. Yeah. We have plans for, as you rightly point out, the next Star Wars maquette. We have plans for a few future Indiana Jones pieces. Some of them are decor, some of them are prop replica. And we have plans for a few other things down the line in the year that are going to be Star Wars pieces, either maquettes or replicas, busts, things like that. So we have an absolute ton of things in the works. For us right now, it's about whittling down what makes the most sense to put out when, what we will have the capacity to make, because as with all of our stuff, a lot of it, we're making in-house, we're making by hand. So I've got to always factor like, okay, how many hands am I going to have free in the crew to actually make this stuff? And I think, that reminds me, as you're scrolling there, the life-size Tauntaun busts, this week they're putting the finishing touches on 4 of them. 3 of those are for orders. 1 of them will be available. So by next week, we will have 1 of these available, and that'll be you can order it and get it in time for Christmas kind of thing. You can put a Santa hat on them. Oh my goodness. It would have to be a very big Santa hat. These guys are massive.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's awesome. So
anyway,
but there's a lot.
So there is a lot coming. There's a lot in the works. We are always dialing that in. Any schedules we put out are always tentative. These things obviously change on a dime when sometimes the winds shift and you've got to move things around. But Rob and I have put together a tentative thing for the first couple of months of 2024, and a few things midway through the year that we'll want to mark. A good place to look for this stuff would be the Regal Robot Facebook group, the Regal Robot Fan and Collector Showcase. Go to Facebook, search Regal Robot Fan and Collector Showcase. It'll come right up, or even just Regal Robot Showcase. It'll come up. Click the join button, agree to the rules, basically to say you're not going to be a jerk. And then we'll let you in, and you can hang out with PJ and Sean and Ilda and Sean and the cool kids and me. And talk about all our stuff and see sneak peeks, see like videos and photos from the studio while we're working on stuff, and all kinds of fun stuff. And that'll be the first place where we share that updated list of what's coming. So
nice.
Keep your eyes peeled in about, I would say, a week and a half.
Yeah. Well, there I was going to say,
who's that guy?
We have an imposter.
Yeah.
I was going to say too, is that you know, for the people like that, you know, are curious, you know, the Facebook page, obviously you guys have almost 2,000 members, which is awesome. It's a great
Mm.
community. You know, Tom and the crew love to tease us with a lot of their products that are, you know, up and coming. And this is the play. This is the best place to be, you know, to be the first to know about these things that are about to be released. You know,
We
yep, Sean.
Which Sean?
Sean.
Oh.
Stone. Yeah, you were saying something? Sean? Stone?
Oh, we've lost his audio again.
Oh, man. Yeah, and by the way, shout out to Gabe. This is obviously, I know he's got a video coming up pretty soon.
Gabe will have a video out tomorrow, and then we have another video the day after that, and another one coming out the day after that. Two of them are the Legacy Edition, and one of them will be the Signature Edition. So people will get a look at it.
I was
and
gonna say,
that's
so Tom teased us a long time. Oh, did you? Oh, wait.
Yeah. Sean? Stone?
I think he's on some kind of crazy delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think his internet's.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, yeah, you know, this is, by the way, these are beautiful pictures. And here's the purple that, you know, we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, and the little green tones on the back and the back of the arm. There's brown tones and reddish tones on those plates. There's the bright yellows around the perimeter. He's covered in paint. It's pretty awesome how much goes into him.
It reminds me of like some sort of like insect, or not insect, the
back of him. Phil said they were thinking of it as like a chitinous, like a lobster tail or something like that.
Crustacean,
crustacean, yeah.
And that translated to the final puppet. They just wound up painting most of it brown, and then it faded out to sort of the bone color on the tail. Whereas on this, it's all that sort of armor color, which is neat, and it's very yellow, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say too is that, so I know there's quite a few maquettes. I know I forget how many maquettes were out there. I saw that nice little like article, and obviously, you know, you don't have to tell us how many you're going to be making, but
right.
You know,
well, there were almost 90 of them. It was 80 or 90 of them that were made for Return of the Jedi. I have to go and look at what like that actual final number is, because there are a handful of them that aren't in the archives.
Yeah.
Not many, but a few. Some that were just lost during the production. Some that, you know, maybe just disappeared or something like that. But for the most part, the archives has the vast majority of them. I have to get a firm count for you, because they also have some maquettes from Empire and some Tauntauns and things like that we kind of put in the mix of this, because even though they're not Jedi, they still feel like they're part of that same bunch. And, you know, the Tauntaun stuff is all Phil, so that's cool too. But for us, you know, we would love to make as many of them as we can. You know, and so far, I guess we've made, let me see if I can count. So we did, if we're including the other, you know, the Tauntaun stuff, we have Phil's original Tauntaun. We have the 4 Tauntaun busts. We have Yak Face, Nine Numb, Droopy, the Jabba Maquette, Max Rebo, Weequay, Reese.
Yeah, this is your 12
from Mando. Now the Rancor. It's become quite the collection.
It looks great
relatively quickly. Like, this is only a few years, and again, this is a small crew making them. I'm really proud of what we've pulled together on this stuff and been able to do with it.
Sean Stone, I think, because he was on the delay, he wanted to ask, like, you know, since you teased us with Bib Fortuna Maquette, when are we going to see him released?
So almost certainly 2024. We keep putting him off, mainly because we've been bringing other sculptors into the mix that have that worked on Star Wars Return of the Jedi. So for instance, the the one that we're releasing in January is actually a new name, somebody that we haven't had signed for us in the past, someone who I don't think has ever signed for a product in the past. And so that's really neat. And so, Bib kind of keeps taking a back seat to either getting a new name out there, or in the case of the Rancor, Bib got bumped because we wanted to put something out that was a little bigger, a little more special, and it was another fill piece. And it was like, well, we can't do the fill Rancor and then back it up with the fill Bib. So Bib just keeps getting bumped down the line a little bit. But he's prototyped. He's actually in production, which means we've done our production molds. We are starting to do castings on him. He's a really challenging cast due to the way that everything is made on him. He's not made to be molded and cast. Thanks, Phil. But we had a brilliant mold maker figured out a great way to do it. And so they are being basically made for a while. And then we'll probably start painting them the same way. And by the time they actually come out, my goal is to do them kind of like we did Droopy, where they're pretty much ready to ship as soon as the edition goes up for sale, so that there's no wait, and it's just they go right out.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, this is very exciting because obviously the Maquette line is a very popular line, because most of them, if not, most of them are all sold out, right? And with just a few of the newer releases still kind of like lingering, but that's awesome. And Tommy, you guys over at Regal Robot do such a great job. We really appreciate we all really appreciate you making us broke. No, I was kidding. Taking our money. No, but seriously, honestly, you make amazing products. I've always been happy with every single piece that I've gotten from you guys. So we are all excited to get this Rancor in our hands, and excited for November 14th at 12 p.m. Eastern.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Yep.
Far from Death Star says, Tom is excited to recreate the shot where the camera passes by all the maquettes for the Return of the Jedi behind the scenes with all the release.
Yeah. Every time we set them up for a photo shoot, when we set the one up with the Rancor, like we take the camera and you're just like, yep, that's we're doing it. We're almost there.
Yeah. Before we log out, do you guys have any questions for Tom before we
I am good.
Sean?
Yeah, between the Facebook group page and today, pretty informative.
It was a heck of a day. I'm just really, really pleased how well people are receiving all of this. I'm so glad you guys are excited to try and grab them. I'm also just very grateful for the people who work at the shop, both the ones that are going to be, have worked so hard prototyping this and getting the paint masters done and getting the approval samples and the production samples and the molds and all of that stuff so far. Tons and tons of work. To the people who are going to be doing the paint on them when we go into production on it, and to the people up front who really work so hard coordinating and juggling all of the orders and figuring people out down to the second, down to breakdowns of, this person got in at 12:000:02 and this person got in at 12:000:03. Like they get right down there to the nitty gritty when it comes to these orders coming in fast and furious. And I don't envy them next week. And I just say that anybody who orders, please give a big thanks to Katie or Christine or Tyler or Ross who are helping you out, because they work so hard.
Yeah, I dealt with Katie quite a few times already, and she's amazing. And you have a great crew over there.
Thank you.
And I was gonna say, thank you again, Tom. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone. We had quite a few people tuning in tonight's show, and we really appreciate. Please go to Regal Robots Facebook group. Not only but obviously join the group. It's a great community. You'll always be updated with new releases, new product teases and stuff. Thank you to Sean Stone. Thank you to Tom, Nilda, Sean, viewers, listeners. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and May the midichlorians be with you guys always and forever. I'm sorry, guys. It's technically 12 o'clock.
Right?
Damn!
Yeah. Daylight savings.
Yeah.
Damn you, daylight savings.
No
Why
excuses.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I all of a sudden like so tired? It's technically 12 o'clock.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
thank you guys again. See you guys next time. Take care.
See ya. Peace.